Ahem. What Amish husbands are allowed to demand from pregnant wives? I lived through it once. My mother would not look at me the morning she brought the blue-striped apron. I was 22 years old, 7 months pregnant, and standing in the wash house behind the home I shared with my husband, Elias. Steam covered the windows. Lye soap stung a crack in my thumb. My mother placed the folded apron beside the basin, smiled as though she were delivering a wedding gift, and kept her eyes on the floor. By then, Elias had already told me what he expected until the baby came. My question was whether the bishop had truly given him that right. My second was why my mother seemed to know before I did. My third was why the apron's small front pocket had been sewn shut. I did not ask any of those questions. That was the kind of wife I had learned to be. I grew up among farms spread between low hills and a narrow river. Our district did not speak for Amish people elsewhere. Even nearby communities kept different customs. But where I was raised, peace in marriage was said to depend upon the husband carrying authority and the wife carrying trust. The words sounded balanced from the pulpit. They did not feel balanced in a kitchen. Elias and I had been married 11 months when I learned I was expecting. He was 27, broad-shouldered, patient with horses, and known for never raising his voice. That last quality impressed my father. A man who shouted was considered weak in our community. Elias could make a room obey him without changing his tone. At first, pregnancy softened him. He brought me apples from the cellar and warmed my side of the bed with a wrapped soapstone. When nausea kept me from breakfast, he defended me to his mother. I mistook those kindnesses for safety, which made the rest harder to understand. The first demand came in my 4th month. My younger sister, Leah, had married into a district near town, where women sometimes visited a physician during pregnancy. She sent me a short letter saying she would take me if I wished. Elias read the letter at supper. He did not snatch it. He finished chewing, folded it once, and placed it beside his plate. "We have Ruth," he said. Ruth was our district midwife, a spare woman in her 50s who smelled of peppermint and wood smoke. She had attended nearly every birth I could remember. "I only thought one visit might ease my mind," I said. "What is troubling your mind?" "Nothing yet." "Then do not go looking for trouble." He burned Leah's letter in the stove. The paper curled around her name before the flame took it. I told myself he feared outside interference and wanted to protect the child. I also told myself marriage required small surrenders from both people, though I could not name what he had surrendered. A week later, he asked me to stop writing to Leah until after the birth. He said she filled me with dissatisfaction. I obeyed, then spent 3 evenings composing a letter in my head that no one would ever read. The second demand concerned work. By the 6th month, my ankles swelled until my shoe ties left deep marks, and bright sparks crossed my sight when I bent over. Ruth examined me in the pantry. "You must rest more," she said. I almost laughed. We had cows, hens, a garden, laundry, bread, meals, and sewing from neighbors. Elias was gone from before sunrise until evening. Ruth did not smile. "Tell him the swelling is not ordinary," she said. "Will you tell him?" Her face closed. A husband hears such things better from his wife. That evening I waited until Elias had washed and eaten. He listened with his hands resting flat on the table. "Ruth says I should do less." "How much less?" She did not say. Then she gave no instruction. He opened the small black household ledger in which he recorded feed, seed, cloth, and every coin spent. He turned to a blank line and wrote my name. "What is that?" I asked. "The work we must hire if you leave it undone." I had never seen my name in that book. The next morning, he priced my tasks, 12 cents for milking, 15 for washing, 8 for bread. Any help would be charged against what I had brought into the marriage. He explained it as calmly as rainfall. "A household cannot run on feelings, Miriam." I returned to the barn the following morning. My fingers were stiff, and I had to grip the stool before standing. Each time I considered resting, I imagined the ink growing beneath my name. When my mother visited 2 weeks later, I tried to tell her while we snapped beans on the porch. She kept breaking the ends too close, wasting good pieces. "Elias keeps an account of my work," I said. "Men keep accounts. Not like this." Her hands stopped for half a breath. Then she said, "You chose a careful husband." It felt like betrayal, because she had once understood me before I spoke. Now I spoke plainly, and she pretended not to hear. I began to suspect she had known something before my wedding. That suspicion grew because of the apron. Mother said the blue-striped apron had belonged to my grandmother. Its linen had faded almost gray, and its deep pocket was sewn shut with fresh blue thread. She said women in our family wore it late in pregnancy to spare their good aprons. "Why is the pocket closed?" I asked. "It caught on a nail." "You used blue thread." "It was what I had. The thread was newer than the cloth." I knew that because Mother had taught me sewing. After she left, I held the apron to the window. Something flat lay inside the pocket. I could feel its edge, but cutting the stitches felt like opening my mother's mouth by force. For several days, the hidden object tapped against me whenever I worked. The first person I trusted was Ruth. She came after Sunday meeting under the excuse of returning a jar. Elias was speaking with 2 men by the hitching rail, so Ruth followed me into the pantry. She pressed my swollen hand between her fingers. Her mouth tightened. "Do you have pain in your head?" "Sometimes. Do lights trouble your eyes?" I nodded. Ruth looked toward the kitchen door. "You need someone with more tools than I possess." "A doctor?" She did not answer directly. "Your sister knows the road." Hope entered me so quickly it felt like fear. "Will you tell Elias?" "I am telling you." That answer made her seem brave. I did not yet understand it also protected her. Leah lived 12 miles away. I had no telephone, little money, and no excuse Elias would accept. Still, once a path had been named, I could not stop seeing it. I decided to ask Mother for help. On market day, while Elias bought nails, I found Mother in the dry goods shop. When I repeated Ruth's warning, she became so still that the shopkeeper glanced at us. "You spoke to Ruth alone?" Mother asked. "Yes." "And she used the word doctor?" "She said Leah knows the road." Mother closed her eyes. For one foolish moment I thought she was relieved. Then she gripped my wrist beneath the counter. "You must not repeat that." "Why?" "Because Ruth could lose her place." "What place?" "The bishop permits her to attend births because she follows the district's order." I pulled my hand away. "Whose order?" Mother looked past me toward the window. Elias was crossing the street. "Your husband's household is his responsibility," she whispered. "During pregnancy, he may decide who enters the home, what help is accepted, what work can be spared, and when outside care is necessary." I stared at her. "May decide," I repeated. She lifted a card of buttons. "Do not make him defend his authority in public. An embarrassed man will hold tighter at home." Elias entered the shop smiling. Mother asked him about the corn crop. On the ride back, Elias spoke about rain while I watched the road to Leah's district disappear behind trees. That night I cut the blue stitches. Inside the pocket was not a letter. It was a narrow card from a county clinic, yellowed at the edges. My mother's maiden name was written across the top. Beneath it, in a hand I did not recognize, were the words, "Further pregnancy may endanger the patient. Medical supervision strongly advised." The date was 23 years earlier, 6 months before I was born. I sat beside the bed and read until the sentence lost meaning. My mother had been warned, and she had carried me anyway. The apron no longer felt like an heirloom. It felt like evidence. I replaced the card and stitched the pocket with white thread because my hands could not find the blue in the dark. The next morning, Elias noticed. "Your mother used blue," he said. I looked at him too quickly. He reached toward the pocket, and I stepped back. It was the first time I had moved away from his hand. His expression did not change, but something between us did. That afternoon, he took the apron from the peg and locked it in his desk. I said nothing. Silence had become my quickest form of defense, though at the time I still called it obedience. The card made me understand that Mother had heard every word. She recognized my life because she had lived its first version. Her coldness was not ignorance. It was fear with good manners. I confronted her 3 days later when she came to help with canning. Elias was in the field. I shut the kitchen door and told her I had opened the pocket. A jar slipped from her hand and struck the table without breaking. "You had no right," she said. "Did Father know?" She covered the jar with both palms. "Your father knew what he wished to know." "Did the bishop?" Her silence answered. I asked why she had hidden the card in an apron she gave to me. "I did not hide it for you to find." Then why bring it? She looked at me at last. Her eyes were wet, but her voice remained flat. Because I wanted it out of my house. That answer wounded me more than anger would have. Before my birth, a doctor had warned Mother against another pregnancy. My father called the warning a lack of faith, and the bishop supported him. She carried me and survived, though she remained ill for years. Why did you never tell me? What would it have changed? It would have changed what I believed about you. Mother folded a dishcloth into smaller and smaller squares. You believe I was brave enough to save you because I survived, she said. Survival is not always bravery. Then she made me promise not to tell Elias about the card. She feared he would bring it to Bishop Yoder and accuse her of planting rebellion in our home. I promised. By sunset, I trusted her again. That was my mistake, not because she felt nothing for me, but because love does not always make a frightened person reliable. Mother proposed taking me to Leah the following Thursday, while Elias attended a barn raising. Leah could drive me to the county clinic, and we would return before chores. The plan depended on secrecy, and 3 women trained to confess secrets. To me, it felt like rescue. For 6 days I finished every task, smiled when Elias spoke, and did not ask for the apron. At night the pressure in my head worsened, and once my heartbeat woke me like knocking. On Wednesday evening, Elias brought me tea. You have seemed troubled, he said. I am tired. He sat beside me. I do not enjoy being severe. The word severe startled me, because I had never used it aloud. He covered my hand. After the baby comes, your sister may visit. We can remove your name from the ledger. If Ruth believes it necessary, perhaps we can speak to a doctor. It was exactly enough hope. I almost confessed everything. Instead, I asked, would you truly allow it? His thumb moved once across my knuckle. I want what is best for my family. I slept deeply that night for the first time in weeks. At dawn, the barn-raising bell sounded in the distance. Elias dressed, kissed my forehead, and left. Mother arrived an hour later, but she was not alone. Bishop Yoder sat beside her in the wagon. I knew before either of them spoke. Mother climbed down without looking at me. The bishop entered our kitchen and placed his hat on the table. Ruth came 10 minutes later. Then Elias walked through the door. There had been no barn raising for him. I stood by the stove while the 4 people I had trusted arranged themselves around me. Elias had the blue-striped apron over his arm. Bishop Yoder began gently. He said rumors could harm a marriage more than hardship. He said a wife frightened by pregnancy might mistake concern for control. He said private matters should remain inside the order of the home. I looked at Mother. She stared at the floor. Ruth spoke next. She admitted she had advised me to seek additional reassurance, but said I had misunderstood her meaning. She never intended me to leave without my husband's permission. That was the first betrayal I could name without confusion. You told me Leah knew the road, I said. Ruth's face reddened. I spoke carelessly. You knew what you were saying. I knew you were afraid. And you told them. She looked at the bishop. I had a duty. Years later, I learned the bishop had threatened Ruth's place if she failed to report such conversations. At the time, I only knew that the woman who pointed toward a door had helped lock it. Then Elias placed the apron on the table and removed the clinic card from its pocket. Mother made a small sound. He had opened the seam. Your mother gave you this, he said. She did not tell me it was there. That was true. Bishop Yoder asked Mother whether she had arranged to take me away that morning. Her mouth opened, but no words came. I waited for her to choose me. At last she said, Miriam has been unsettled. I thought a visit to her sister might calm her. I did not agree to a doctor. The room tilted. Mother had gone to the bishop hoping for quiet permission. Instead, he called Elias and arranged the meeting. Once they were together, she protected herself with denial. I understood her fear. I have never called it innocence. Elias opened his ledger. Beneath my name, he had copied a statement Bishop Yoder had dictated. It said that until the birth, I would accept the care chosen for me, remain within our household unless accompanied, perform the work Elias judged necessary, and submit decisions about outside treatment to him as head of the home. There was a line for my mark. I could read every word. Elias knew I could, yet Bishop Yoder read it aloud as if the meaning belonged to him. What happens if I do not agree? I asked. No one answered at first. Then Elias said, "Agreement is not the question." That sentence was the true beginning of the end of our marriage. Still, I signed. People who hear that part may imagine they would have thrown the pen down. I was 7 months pregnant, without money, transportation, or a safe home. Mother had withdrawn her help, Ruth her warning, and the bishop had renamed fear as disobedience. Refusal would not free me. It would bring punishment inside the same walls. I signed because I needed the meeting to end. Afterward, Mother washed the cups. That ordinary act was almost unbearable. Before leaving, she pressed the blue-striped apron into my hands. Elias allowed it because the card was gone. I found a new seam inside the pocket that evening. Mother had stitched 3 silver coins into the hem. She had betrayed me, then tried to help me in a way that did not require her to stand beside me. For many years, that was how I understood her love, small enough to hide. For 2 weeks, Elias's cousin watched what I ate, when I rested, and whether I approached the road. Ruth visited twice. I would not let her touch me. One afternoon, my vision blurred so completely that the kitchen window became a square of white light. I sat on the floor until it passed. Elias found me there. For the first time, he looked frightened. He carried me to bed and sent for Ruth. Ruth listened to my breathing and examined my swelling. Then she asked Elias to step into the hall. Their voices were low, but I heard my name and the word danger. When Elias returned, I expected him to say we were going to the clinic. Instead, he sat beside the bed and told me Bishop Yoder would come to pray. That was the moment false hope ended. The bishop arrived near dusk. He prayed for calm, submission, and protection. He never asked where the pain was. Afterward, I asked Elias directly, "If Ruth says I need a doctor, will you take me?" He looked toward the door where the bishop stood. "If she says it in the proper way." Ruth was behind him. She lowered her eyes. I understood then that no one in the room would use the proper words, because the proper words would make Elias responsible for refusing them. So I asked Ruth myself, "Do I need a doctor?" Her lips trembled. "You need rest." It was a cowardly answer, and it may also have been the only answer she believed she was permitted to give. That night I took the 3 coins from the apron hem. I waited until the house was quiet, then dressed in my plainest clothes. I placed bread in a cloth, wrapped the clinic card's meaning in my memory, and walked out before dawn. I had no card, horse, or plan, only 3 coins, a road, and a body I could no longer trust. The county clinic was 9 miles away. I made it less than 2. A milk truck came along the road as the sun rose. The driver was an older Mennonite man who knew my father. He stopped when he saw me sitting beside a fence. I told him I needed the clinic. He looked at my clothes, my swollen hands, and the road behind me. "Does your husband know?" "No." He was silent long enough that I thought he would leave. Then he opened the passenger door. My irreversible choice was climbing into a stranger's truck after everyone I loved had told me obedience was safer than judgment. At the clinic, a doctor said my blood pressure was dangerously high. He kept me under care and contacted my family. Elias arrived with Bishop Yoder before noon. Mother came later. In a hallway smelling of disinfectant and boiled coffee, Elias asked me to dress and return home. Bishop Yoder said the doctor had frightened me. Mother twisted her handkerchief against the wall. Then the doctor asked Elias a question. "If her condition worsens, do you authorize whatever treatment is necessary to protect her?" Elias did not answer immediately. He looked at the bishop. That pause told me everything. This is the part promised by the title, and I will state it carefully because I do not speak for every Amish family or every district. I speak only of the household and church order under which I lived. In our district, my husband had been permitted to demand that I keep working while pregnant, surrender private letters, remain on the farm unless accompanied, accept only the birth attendant approved by our church, and let him decide when outside medical care was necessary. He had also been permitted to require my written obedience to those demands. But what he demanded in that hallway was worse. He told me that if the doctor believed the pregnancy had to be ended early to protect my life, I was to refuse unless he and Bishop Yoder agreed. He said the child belonged to our family, and my fear did not give me the right to make that decision alone. I had lived under each smaller demand because I kept waiting for the boundary he would not cross. There was no boundary. There was only the place where I finally stopped following him. I told the doctor, "Do what is needed." Elias said my name once. I did not look at him. My daughter, Leah, was born early that evening. She was very small, but she lived. Elias visited once and asked whether I intended to return as his wife. I asked whether he believed he had done anything wrong. He said, "I did what a husband is meant to do." I told him I would not come back. The consequences were not clean. My parents took me in for 6 weeks, but father insisted I reconcile. Mother cared for the baby at night and avoided the hallway. Ruth sent salve without a note. Bishop Yoder said I had placed myself outside my marriage's order. Elias kept the farm, furniture, and nearly everything I had brought. He tried to persuade father to return the baby, but even father would not separate a nursing infant from her mother. Leah found me sewing work, and in time I moved near her district. I was not formally shunned, but invitations stopped and conversations turned to weather when I approached. My marriage became a warning told to younger women without my name. Mother visited secretly for years. During one visit, she brought the clinic card. Bishop Yoder had returned it after Elias no longer wanted it. She laid it on my table and said, "I should have gone with you." I answered yes. She began to explain the threats, the shame, my father, the fear that I would lose everyone. I listened. Then I told her understanding was not the same as excusing. She nodded. It was the most honest moment we ever shared. When Leah was 12, Ruth appeared with the black ledger. Elias had died, and his brother had found it among his things. Inside were the charges listed beneath my name: milking, washing, bread, missed sewing, hired help. On the final page, Elias had written the cost of the hospital stay. Beside it, in smaller letters, he had written, "Wife refused order." Ruth expected the ledger to wound me. Instead, it freed something. For years, I wondered whether fear had made concern look like control, or whether I had destroyed a marriage over one terrible week. The ledger showed the pattern in his own hand. He had turned my body, my labor, my fear, and finally my survival, into entries he believed he owned. I burned the ledger in my stove. I kept the apron. I am 79 now. Leah has children of her own, and they know our old district only through my stories. I do not say Faith caused what happened. Faith was also present in the driver who opened his door, my sister who gave me a room, and my mother's 3 coins. What harmed me was authority that could not be questioned without being called sin. I once believed compliance proved I was weak. Now I know it kept me alive until I saw a path out. Mother loved me, but love hidden in hems and pockets was not enough when I needed someone to stand in the room and speak. And I once believed Elias would stop before his demands endangered me. He did not. The blue striped apron hangs inside my cupboard today. The cloth is thin, the pocket crooked, the hem opened where I removed those coins before dawn. I never repaired that seam.